This is Will Faerber from Art to Ride. Today we're looking at a horse of a little bit of a different color, as my father used to like to say. This is actually a mule. His name is Ryan. He's 13 years old, and he's ridden by Berni here. She sent in a request wanting to know if this work would be applicable for her mule, and of course I answered yes, it would be. There's not much difference between a mule and a horse, other than they tend to be smarter than a horse. The other difference is that they tend to be a little stiffer in the back. Now this mule looks like it has a lot of horse bred into it. But generally they tend to be a little thicker and blockier around the shoulders. Now this is not a typical looking mule here, and that it is, looks like it's got a lot of horse bred into it. I could be wrong here, but I would say that's probably true of this one. It doesn't look like he has a typical mule shoulder, which tend to be very straight. Those qualities make a horse a mule rather strong in the back, and that's why we use them for a lot of long distance things and pack work and field work and that sort of thing. Because their back is a little fused and a little stiffer, they have a little more strength than a regular horse does. But there's no reason why this work wouldn't be applicable for any horse that we are riding, so to speak. Now she gets him moving quite nicely here. He's a little on the flat side here. Needs to get him swinging a little more active, but she does that quite nice. Still continues to open him up, and that's exactly what I'd like to see. Berni has a good position here, it seems. She's not interfering with the horse's mouth, keeping him moving and active. There, he begins to swing more over his back. Very nice. Now we can see that behind the saddle there's a little bit of a dip there before the hip bone. As you can see, it comes around there. You can see it quite clearly. So that will all strengthen as this horse develops more over his top line. Once again, those dips that you see behind your saddles will disappear when you do enough of this work, because the horse gets stronger across that weak part of his back, which is his loin. That's why we never want a saddle sitting back there, because that's the weakest part of the horse's back. But this is looking really good. She's got him swinging and active. I like how as he raises his head there, she just raised her hands up to stay with the contact, and you'll see that he stretches back into it in just a moment. That's good, and I like how she's just keeping him moving here. A little bit of canter work. I would like to see him stretch a little deeper before we get too much into the canter, but he canters pretty well over his back, not too bad there. So once again, that's kind of our rule of thumb that we always follow. I mean, if the horse can't canter without getting over his back, at least to some degree, we want to stick to the trot work until we get a little more consistent. And same thing with downwards transitions, for instance. We always want to be sure that we have the horse solidly and soft in the bridle before we start doing a lot of downwards transitions. That is, we want our contact to be consistent and the horse consistent over its back. She makes a downwards transition there, and while it wasn't a bad transition, those kind of transitions where, he's not real round over his back, he did continue to come through because she didn't interfere with her hands, and that's a great thing. And now we see him stretching a little more in the walk here. This is really good. Try to make it a little more active all the time, but I have a feeling you're on the right track here with this. Very nice. His walk could be more active, but I'm sure that you'll get him there before long. Very nice, though. I like how she just interferes. That is, that she impulses the horse forward again every time she feels him slow down. So that's really good. That's what we want to see. Continuing to work the horse from the back to the front. That's what it means to ride the back end of a horse, to ride from the back to the front. We see so many people today riding off their hands, using draw reins and all these mechanical devices to set the head and neck. But once you understand that it's getting the back in the right position, the head and neck stretch right into the contact. So it's working from the back to the front. This is really good. She's got a more active swinging trot here. It's got a little more thrust off the ground. It's good. So again, she has a very good position, stays very independent with her hands, not interfering, and like how she impulses him forward there, but yet she's not kicking every stride. This is actually very good with her legs there. They're in a good position. And every time she slows down, I see her send him on forward, and that's exactly, look at that stretch now. That's really good. Once again, this is a mule, folks, so if this mule can do it, certainly your horses can at home. In time. Much, much better here. A little inconsistent. Obviously, we'd like to get him to where he just stays in that contact a little deeper, but this is really good for just beginning. Really good work. Really good swinging trot there. Never slowing down. That's it. Very nice there. He stretches a little deeper, and every time we see him stretch a little deeper, watch the back end and what effect it has on him. How it gets a little deeper and the hock becomes a little rounder. That is the motion in the hock. which tells us that the horse is beginning to push off the ground and lift and carry us a little more. This is really good here. Once again, a little slow right now. There you go. She's going to go into a canter. And once again, the canter is not bad. You know, it's good enough that I would do it. I would spend, I might not even canter a horse at this level every day. I probably wouldn't. I'd probably do more trot work till I got that more consistent. But, you know, this horse canters enough over its back that it can be done, you know, with some advantage. That is, it's worthwhile. If your horse is just so hollow that all it does is canter with its head straight up in the air, you need to do a lot more work in the trot and walk in order to get the horse softer and more correct over its back before you go to the canter. But this is really quite good. Not a bad downwards transition. Doesn't go right into the contact, but that's not bad at all. She keeps him moving forward till she does get him to stretch into the contact and doesn't just stop and start pulling on his mouth. Well, this is a wonderful example of how any horse can be trained correctly. If it's got 4 legs and a back, its back can be developed. Well, this is really good work. Thanks, Bernie, for sending this in. It's been very interesting. I'd love to see another tape from you in the not-too-distant future as you get this horse more consistent. Thanks again, or I should say Mule. This has been Will Faerber from Art to Ride.